Welcome to part 8 of the video series. This one is all about executive management. What do I look for in an executive management team? How do I decide whether a company has a good executive management team or a bad one? So, like I mentioned earlier in this whole video series, I mentioned that executive management and their decision making can make or break your investment over the long term. Why? Because their decisions are the ones that are made on whether they can grow or shrink, and if they point the company in this direction or this direction, maybe this way is the bad way and this way is the good way, guys. So how do you decide if a company has a good executive management team so you can invest in them, so you can buy it and hopefully make money for long term to come? One of the biggest factors I like to look for is I like to find companies that are founder-led. Why do I even care about if the founder is still leading a company or heavily involved with the company? Let's put it that way. Well, I don't think anybody can care about a business the way a founder cares about a business. A founder, someone that started the company from scratch, from their garage, from their office, whatever, I think the level of care they give toward that company, the vision they're willing to give that company, is better than anyone else will ever have a chance of giving to that company. The founders, they just see things differently. They just care for that company like it's their little baby. They just want that company to succeed. If that company fails, it's almost like their child failed or something like that. They have such an emotional attachment to it. I love founder-led companies. Apple under Steve Jobs. We talked about that one. Google, even nowadays, the founders are not technically the CEO, but they're still heavily involved in the executive decision making at Google. A lot of the biggest companies out there, guys, the founders are still very important keys to those companies and some of the reasons why those companies succeed. So I love founder-led companies. It's a big thing. If a company has a founder-led company and I really like that founder, I'll always give those companies preference over a company that does not. Now, it doesn't just have to be founder-led. I like to find CEOs that maybe completely turned around a company. So a company was in the doldrums and they brought this company to fruition. I'll give you an example. There's a company named Cirrus Logic. I think I mentioned it earlier on in this video series. They have a CEO named Jason Rode. This guy became CEO when this company was a $5 stock. A $5 stock. This was about 7-8 years ago. That company now has a $55 stock price. Their revenues have gone from a little over $100 million when he took over to now like over $1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. He's made extremely smart strategic moves with the company, and he got on the Apple train. What do I mean by that? He runs a semiconductor company. He understood how big the iPhone was going to be, and he got in the iPhone when a lot of companies weren't as focused around getting in the iPhone, and he had perfect execution. If you're in Apple products, you have to have perfect execution as a semiconductor. If you ever have issues with that semiconductor, Apple will probably just drop you in the next iPhone. He's always had perfect execution with that. Some of it could be luck, absolutely, but majority of the time it's because he knows how to hire people. He knows how to hire the right people and make the right decisions so his products don't ever fail Apple. And that company's made billions of dollars in profit literally off of Apple. The reason they have such a nice corporate headquarters is built on the backs of Apple, is built on the back of Jason Rode making tons of great decisions on hiring people and not hiring people that have succeeded, that have helped the company succeed way bigger than it was any time prior to him being CEO, guys. So I'm also looking for that because I almost consider those type of CEO situations as kind of like, I kind of almost view it like they're almost the founder of the company, even though the company was already around, but it was in the doldrums. It was a nothing company, and then they brought it to a something company, a big time company. So I almost look at them the same way I look at a founder. Now, how do you find out this? Well, when you're doing those research or reading those 10Ks, find out when that CEO became CEO of that company. If they were not the founder, obviously. If they're not the founder, find out when they became CEO of that company when you're doing your research. That will probably be available in that 10K. Generally, it says that they've been, when it goes over the board of directors and all that kind of stuff and the executive management team, generally it says what year they started as CEO. Look at the stock performance since that time. Look at how the income's gone since then. As far as the income statement, look at how the revenues have gone. Look at how the net income's gone. How have the decision-making process been gone over time. Research everything you can about that CEO. That's so vital, guys. Research everything you can about the CEO. Try to see interviews with that CEO. Does he look or she look very competent? Do they look very confident? Also, not just competent, but confident. Are they very confident in their decision-making? Do they look like they really understand the industry they're in, better than anyone else, or at least, as good as anybody else? All those kinds of things, guys. Research them almost like like a private detective. That's what you really need to do. I mean, I don't mean go to their house or something like that. You don't need to go that far, but you need to try to dig up anything you can on them. Like try to find old interviews, maybe from a company they worked for in the past. Like just read, what college did they go to? All those kinds of things. Like just look at all this stuff. What's their past track record? All these things should be taken into account when you are trying to judge a good executive management team, but mainly the CEO, because the CEO is the main decision maker there at the end of the day. Also, look at the board of directors. The board of directors are really the ones who decide, who to hire for executive positions. Look at them. What are their credentials on the board of directors? That's generally all available in the 10K and sometimes even the 10Qs. You can look at the board of directors and see, what is their experience? What is their past? But really, I like to look at the CEO. And that's where I'm judging executive management. I'm not just judging it off of, where the company's revenues have gone, this and that. I'm also judging their decision making based upon what are they doing with the cash? So they're probably making a profit. Hopefully, if you're investing in a company, hopefully it's a profitable one. Where's the money going at the end of the day? Are they spending massive amounts of money on paying out to the shareholders in dividends? If they are, that probably means they don't think there's going to be as much growth in that company. Generally, companies that pay dividends, and especially a lot of dividends out, 3% yields or something like that, those type of companies, generally speaking, they're not that focused around growth. They probably feel like they've grown all they can grow anymore. Companies that are focused around growth and they feel like they have a lot of growth, they generally like to keep that money on the balance sheet to then go ahead and hire more employees, build out more infrastructure, all those kinds of things. Think about, Amazon. Think about Amazon. Amazon doesn't pay out dividends. Amazon doesn't do share repurchases. Amazon's focused on spending all that money to hire more and more employees. They're supposed to hire like 100,000 employees over the next year or two, right? They're focused around hiring employees. They're focused around building distribution, building more warehouses, about figuring out different ways to do delivery, how to build their cloud infrastructure. Like they're spending all that money because they're a big growth company. So when I'm judging an executive management team, I like to see, and of course, at the end of the day, board of directors are the ones that decide on this, but the CEO kind of has a big say in this. Like if the CEO wants to spend that money on this or that, they'll let the board of directors know, and generally the board of directors won't just okay dividends or share repurchases just for, the sake of doing that at the end of the day. And a lot of times the CEO is actually on the board of directors. So that's what I like to look at. I'm looking at, if they're not paying out dividends, or they're doing a share repurchase program. If they're doing a share repurchase program, that generally means the executive team, the board of directors, they kind of feel like the stock is undervalued and they should buy some shares. And of course, when you buy those shares off the market, that's less shares that end up counting against the company as far as when the net income, when you take the net income versus how many shares are on the market, you can get a P ratio, okay? And we'll talk about P ratios a little more in the next segment. We're coming up here, we're gonna talk about P ratios. If there are less and less shares, that P ratio gets lower and lower as long as they can stay just as profitable, if not more profitable. And then that will generally, over time, attract more and more investors because the company becomes more and more undervalued. So I'd like to see, are they doing a share repurchase program? If they are doing a share repurchase program, are they making a good decision on that? Or are they just buying shares at an overpriced value? Because there's been a lot of companies that have done share repurchase programs. They'll do them at an overpriced valuations when the company's trading at a PE of 30 or 25 or something like that, guys. And once again, we'll talk about P ratios in the next video segment. But I don't like that. I don't like a company that's spending a bunch of money buying shares back at an overpriced valuation. The company's underpriced, and especially where the growth is going with that company, then share repurchases make sense. So it's not just when I'm judging executives, I'm not just deciding on where the revenues have gone since they've been CEO, where the net income has gone. I'm also deciding, where's the money going that comes through the door? Where's that net income going? Is it sitting on the balance sheet? Are they making acquisitions? If they are making acquisitions, are those smart acquisitions? Or are they just, acquisitions just to grow? If it's just an acquisition to grow, that doesn't make much sense at the end of the day to me. I like acquisitions that will help the entire company grow in a much bigger way than just, 1 + 1 = 2. I want 1 + 1 = 6. I want 1 + 1 = 10. I want if an executive management team is making decisions to acquire a company, did that acquisition pan out where they're drastically more profitable and not just, the other company came in, they were making an extra $100 million in profit, and all of a sudden the company started making an extra $100 million, or is the company making an extra $500 million? So look back at the last few acquisitions a company has made and see, were they successful? Did they pan out over the last few years and things like that, guys? all those factors I'm taking into account with a company as far as judging the executive management team, specifically the CEO, specifically more of the board of directors. How's their decision making going? Because that is what's going to affect you. That is what is going to make or break your investment over the long term, guys. You're in this for the next 3-5 years, more than likely. If that company makes a lot of bad decisions over the next 3-5 years, your investment's more than likely going to go down in price. They make a lot of good decisions, guess what? You're going to make out like a bandit on it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this chapter on executive management. I hope I fully explained what I look for in an executive management team. That was definitely my goal of this little video segment. In the next video segment, I want to talk about PE ratios. What are PE ratios? How do you judge a good PE ratio versus a bad PE ratio, and all those kinds of things, guys? I hope you enjoy it.